Dear friends, we are here to discuss some basic concepts of disaster management. I am Amir Ali Khan, representing National Institute of Disaster Management, and today we are discussing under this EPG Pathshala course on internet security, basic concepts of disaster management. We try to learn how disaster management are influencing our lives, and then how disaster management is impacting us, as well as what are the major objectives of making disaster management as a subject or as a discipline at national level. So through these aspects we are going to understand concepts of disaster management. You know that what could happen in a disaster like situation. When disasters happen, we have a lot of damages to buildings, damages to lifelines, damages to infrastructure facilities, and the highest damage do take place to built infrastructure, particularly the housing sector. And when I am talking about housing sector, it's basically the our villages, our cities, and our all built environment where we do live. And when disasters are happening, all these facilities are impacted. So we are going to understand some basic concepts related to disaster management. What is disaster management? How it's comprised of, and what are the important ingredient of disaster management? To start with, we have to discuss or start with the concept called hazard. What is hazard? Hazard is any event which is having a potential to convert into a disaster. And if you see that you will see a picture where we are showing international map of natural hazards, and you see that our part of the world is having all possible hazards prevailing at international level. Though it may be earthquakes, cyclones, floods, landslides, droughts, everything is available. So we are having high hazard prone areas prevailing in our country. I repeat again, what is hazard? Those events which is having a potential to convert into a disaster. So as mentioned earlier that we are living in high hazard prone areas of the world where all possible hazards are taking place, and due to our location in hazard prone areas, large number of disasters are happening in our part of the world. Our country is included in that. When I am saying large number of disasters are happening, if you see in comparison to number of disasters what we are sharing in the international data, more people are being killed and more economic losses are taking place. So my question is, why we are killing more number of people in comparison to disasters, number of disasters happening in our part of the world? So the simple reason is that our vulnerabilities are much higher. Now the question comes, what is vulnerability? Vulnerability is those conditions which are making us susceptible to damages. So we discussed about hazard, the potential, which is any event which can convert into disaster, then vulnerability, which is the susceptibility to have damages due to disasters. Besides these two things, and besides all these things, number of disasters are increasing at international level. This has already been proven that disasters are increasing. So what are the reasons for increasing number of disasters? So when I say disasters are increasing, what are the reasons for increasing number of disasters? So simple reasons are, in our part of the world, in our country, we have lot of population pressure. Due to lot of population pressure, what is happening is we are going for exposed areas development. When I am saying exposed areas development, those areas where exposure is already there, where disasters can happen. Number two, we are going for unplanned or ill-planned developmental practices. So now question comes, what is unplanned and ill-planned developmental practices? Unplanned developmental practices, say in case of urban development, is that we have unauthorized colonies, we have jhuggi jhopdi clusters. Then what is ill-planned development? Ill-planned development is where we invest money but which is not resulting in proper norms without adopting proper norms. So the example comes when we had Uttarakhand disaster in 2013, lot of damage took place. Why? We have built our hotels, other infrastructure facilities within the river beds. So when flood water comes, everything was washed away. So in my opinion, that is ill planned development. Besides that, we are having environmental degradation going on. And what are the implications of environmental degradation? Climate change is taking place. Now the question comes, what are the implications of climate change? Climate change is having far-reaching implications on disasters. Disasters and climate change are having very close association among themselves. So when I am talking about climate change, due to changing climate, global warming is taking place. Global temperature is increasing. There are recorded evidences temperature is rising, and due to that rising temperature, problems are coming like melting of glacier is coming. What will happen? First, whatever water is stored in form of glaciers, that will melt, that will come in large quantities. We have floods. Then after some time, some years, there will be no water. We will have zero water supply from those. Our perennial rivers like Ganga, Yamuna and all those, they will become seasonal rivers. And then what ultimately is happening, the entire water from glaciers is being transferred to oceans. So ocean level is rising. So what are the implications of rising oceans? So many countries are going to be submerged due to rising sea waters. Besides that, sea erosion is going to take place. So these are few of the implications. Besides that, extreme events are going to take place. So weather abnormalities are going to be visible when we do say a relationship between disaster and climate change is taking place. So critical examples are recent examples. We had floods in Uttarakhand, we have floods in Kashmir when Srinagar was submerged, we have floods in Chennai when entire city was submerged for several days. So these are the extreme events. Besides that, if you can recollect, we had extreme events in Mumbai when Mumbai flood took place. Similarly, all those climatological events are taking place which can be categorized as extreme events. In addition to that, climate change is having a lot of implications on human health. So when I am saying implication of climate change on human health, we have a lot of examples where changing climatic conditions are having implication on all of us. For example, in summers we have a lot of issues related to asthma. In winters also, when climatic conditions are there, when pollutants are coming, so we have a lot of cough problem all around. Then we have a prolonged rainy season, we have chikungunya and dengue. Then you go to hills, you see that hills are getting warmer, then snow line is going up, and what is happening due to changing snow line is those crops which were available on lower altitudes are now going on higher altitudes. So a lot of implications are coming, not only on human health, on our economy, on our food products, and everything is going to have implications. And ultimately what is going to happen is all things are going to have implication on disaster terms. Now I would like to change the topic. We will discuss now some hazard profile of the country. And you see, as I mentioned in my beginning introductory part, a country is prone to various type of hazards, which are earthquakes, cyclones, and etc. etc. So when I am talking about 60% of landmass is prone to earthquakes, I am saying that the entire country, within the country, we divide as per the seismic hazard map of the country, entire country into 4 zones, and zone 5 is the zone where highest magnitude earthquakes can take place. What are the areas within zone 5? So these areas are entire northeast, all states including Sikkim, parts of North Bihar, parts of Uttarakhand, parts of Himachal Pradesh, parts of Jammu and Kashmir, parts of Gujarat, and entire Andaman and Nicobar. So these areas are in zone 5. When we are talking about zone 5, these are the areas where the magnitude up to magnitude 8 and more can take place, and we have a recorded history of happening of earthquakes in these areas. Then comes the zone 4, which is the second highest severe zone, and in this zone Delhi is also in zone 4, and earthquakes, severe earthquakes can take place, and as far as Delhi is concerned, Delhi's proximity to zone 5 makes it more hazard prone. Similarly, zone 3 and zone 2 are also there. This is about earthquakes. So if we go to floods, floods, almost 40% of the landmass is prone to floods, and almost entire country is flood prone, especially areas in east are more prone, like Brahmaputra Valley, like Ganga Valley, like states, if we talk in terms of states, northeastern states, Bihar, Bengal, eastern UP, and southern states, Andhra Pradesh. These are the areas traditionally flood prone. Let's go to cyclone, and if you see cyclone wise, cyclone India is having a long coastline, almost 7,500 kilometers, and out of that substantial area is cyclone prone. In terms of cyclone, east coast is more prone to cyclones than the west coast, and cyclones in India occur in 2 seasons, in May, June and October, November. So this is about cyclone, and if we go to droughts, country is having a lot of drought prone areas in the western part, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and central part. If you go to Madhya Pradesh, then Karnataka, then Tamil Nadu, these are the traditionally disaster, that drought prone areas. As far as the landslides are concerned, all hill areas are prone to landslides, and landslides especially happen in Kashmir, in Uttarakhand, in Himachal Pradesh, in northeast and the western Ghats. And if you see, the most important part of disaster profiling of India is almost entire country is having one or the other type of hazard prevailing there. As far as states are concerned, almost all states having one or the other type of hazards prevailing there. The important thing and important characteristic of hazard profiling of India is that in the same season, say in rainy season, we have one part of the state is facing drought, the other part is facing flood. Besides that, same state like Bihar, it's prone to earthquakes, it's prone to floods, it's prone to high winds, it's prone to droughts. Go to West Bengal, it's prone to earthquakes, cyclones, droughts, landslides and whatnot. So this is the important characteristic, that states are having multiple hazard proneness. Similarly, entire India, all states, one time or the other time, they have faced disaster of severe magnitude. So we have already discussed about hazard. Now I will explain something about vulnerability. I have already told vulnerability is the susceptibility to face damages. Vulnerabilities determine how much damage we are going to have. Vulnerabilities are of various types. If we classify them, vulnerability can be classified as physical vulnerability, social vulnerability, economic vulnerability and environmental vulnerability. When I am talking about physical vulnerability, which indicates the vulnerability of our built environment, in which the vulnerability of our buildings, where we live, our houses, our infrastructure and all facilities which are built, it is physical vulnerability. When I am talking about vulnerability, vulnerability indicates the negativity in the system. To explain further, when vulnerability is having another term just opposite to it, is called capacity, which is positivity in the system. So vulnerability is the negativity in the system and capacity is the positivity in the system. Positivity capacity is defined as the capacity to respond to the system. When let's come back to vulnerability. Vulnerability is, as I told, physical vulnerability about the physical things, then social vulnerability. Social vulnerability is about the social system. In our system, in our society, you know there are various type of people, like in our family. We have men, we have women, we have elderly people, we have kids. So every one of us in the family have a different level of vulnerability. So that is defined as social vulnerability. Like able-bodied persons like me have are less vulnerable. My kids are more vulnerable. My parents who are aged are more vulnerable. In comparison to men, women are more vulnerable, especially women when they are pregnant and lactating, they become more vulnerable. So this is social vulnerability. Then we have economic vulnerability, which defines the impact of disasters on the state of society. It is sad that poor state of the society is more vulnerable in comparison to other status. Then the environmental vulnerability. Environmental vulnerabilities are when impact on environment is going to take place. So, like in case of cyclone, lot of salty water or sand come and that impact. So, that impact the environment as well, ecology as well. So, these are the 4 types of vulnerabilities. So, we have so far discussed hazard, vulnerability, capacity. So, another term or basic concept about disaster management is risk. Risk is the probability of negative consequences to take place. So, risk is basically a situation which can be quantified, and if hazard and vulnerabilities are meeting and disaster is taking place. So, precondition of disaster is you can quantify and define as risk. So, risk can be transferred. For example, if you have taken insurance and something happened to your insured thing, like some damage has taken place to your house and your house was already insured, so you can get some insurance money. So, you have already transferred your risk, and so this is one concept of risk transfer. Now, the question comes, we have already discussed several things like hazard, vulnerability, capacity and risk. So, now let us focus on another term called disaster, or which is the most important term related to within the gambit of disaster management. What is disaster? Disaster is any situation which disrupts the normal life, which is having some social impact, which have resulted in some injuries and death and all sort of thing. And the most important characteristic of disaster is that community has to respond by taking exceptional measures, and whatever impact a disaster has or event has, it's beyond the coping capacity of the society or the system. Suppose we have some accident, one bicycle had an accident with the motorcycle. So, there is not much impact on the system is not affected, it's a small event. But when in comparison to that small event or small accident, a flood comes and have impacted the entire city of Chennai. So, it's beyond the coping capacity, exceptional measures has to be taken, some lot of economic losses has taken place, lot of lives were lost. So, all those characteristics were fulfilled whatever we discussed, and you see in comparison to that small road accident, which is a small single event, that disaster is very big. So, now we can define or we can categorize disasters. Disasters can be categorized in various ways. One is man-made and natural. Those events which are originated by natural sources, those are natural disasters. Otherwise, those are having human-made or human-induced origin. Those are human-induced disasters. Similarly, sudden and progressive type of disasters. So, sudden type of disasters are those events which are just come immediately, like earthquakes. There is no warning. So, those are sudden type of disasters. Then there are progressive type of disasters. So, progressive disasters are those where we get some time time before a main disaster event is striking. Like in case of cyclones, we have several days forecast available, and we can utilize this forecast in form of early warning, and when early warning is there, we can evacuate people to safer locations. There are several examples at national level when good cyclone forecast was made, good early warning was issued, and we were able to evacuate people to safer locations. In that manner, we are able to save large number of human lives. Similarly, there was a high powered committee constituted by Government of India in 1995. They categorized all possible hazards which are prevailing at national level into 5 categories. So these 5 categories are hazards related to climate and weather related disasters, all hazards like flood, cyclone, drought, and all heat waves, cold wave, all these are under that category. Then second category was geological hazards or geological disasters like earthquake, mud flow, landslides, all activities related to geology and geologically originated hazards. Then biological disasters. We discussed in the beginning of this discussion about dengue and chikungunya and malaria and that type of vector borne diseases. So those are biological disasters. Then we have chemical, industrial, and nuclear disasters. So when you remember we had Bhopal gas tragedy. So those type of disasters are categorized under this category. Then we have accident related disasters like road accident, railway accidents, air accidents, boat capsizing, and all that type of accidents are categorized under this category. So another thing about disasters is HPC has categorized disasters into various levels. So levels are which defines what type of preparedness, what type of actions you are required to take. Like L0 disaster, they define disasters into L0, L1, L2 and L3. So L0 is those type of disasters like peacetime when there is no disaster. So that is the time to prepare for disaster management when disaster is taking place. L1 is the localized disaster where not much intervention of a state government or national government is required. L2 is when it's a slightly bigger disaster and several districts are affected and states can manage by themselves. So L3 type of disasters are it's huge one, as we discussed in the beginning. We have Chennai flood, we have Kashmir flood, we have Uttarakhand flood, we have Gujarat earthquake, and those big events where a lot of damage has taken place, lot of people were impacted, and it requires a lot of time and effort and money to take care of the affected people. So those are L3 type of disaster where assistance from central government is required. So this is level of disasters. Another thing is that as we discussed, hazard, vulnerability, disaster and risk. So there is a relationship between these terms. In a hazard prone area, you are living in more vulnerable conditions. So when hazard is striking, so disaster, it's a high risk, and when risk is coming to, when disaster is taking place, it's going to be a big disaster. Similarly, if you are living in less hazard prone area and your vulnerabilities are high, whenever that event is taking place, it's going to be a medium type of thing. Other way around, when you are living in high hazard prone areas and your capacities are high, your vulnerability is low, so it's going to be average type of disasters. Similarly, you are living in high hazard prone area with high vulnerable conditions, and whenever that disaster event is taking place, so it's going to be huge disaster. As discussed earlier, in case of Uttarakhand flood, what happened? It's high hazard prone area, lot of water comes, and when water came, we were living in lot of physical vulnerability was there and a lot of other conditions which are negative for that type of environment. So you see, you can recollect lot of damage has taken place. So this is definitely, there is a relationship between these terms which we have already discussed. So when we are talking about disasters, what are the implication or impact of disasters? During disasters, we have impact on our health, our sometimes we are being killed, When I am saying being killed means people are being killed during disasters. Disasters are taking our livelihoods. As you know that when we are talking about tsunami in 2004, it has impacted a lot of damage to fishermen community. They lost their livelihood, means of earning their livelihood. They got damaged their boats, nets, fishing nets, and everything. So then disasters are resulting in orphaning people or orphaning kids. They are making ladies widow, they are making men widower. So all sort of impact are coming. Then the biggest thing is psychological impact on the masses. If you recollect or if I recollect, after Gujarat earthquake, people were scared to go and sleep at nights in their houses, in multi-story apartments in Ahmedabad. Because many people start fearing psychologically that earthquake is coming, and how to counter that type of thing. So you have to provide psychosocial support, and when you are talking about psychosocial support, you have to take the assistance of uh, that type of specialist who can provide counseling to the affected community. So when we are talking about impact of disasters, it's far reaching, and if you categorize the impact of disasters in broad terms, disaster results in three broad categories of damages: direct losses, indirect losses, and tertiary losses. When I am talking about direct losses are those losses which are directly resulted from the impact of disaster, like death, like damage to houses. What are the secondary losses? Secondary losses are, as I told, the impact on the livelihood. People stop earning their livelihood. So that is the secondary losses. Then we have the tertiary losses. What are the tertiary losses? Those impacts when a big disaster like Uttarakhand flood has taken place. So state government forgot all developmental activities. They start focusing on rebuilding, reconstruction, rehabilitation, and recovery of the disaster affected areas. So all efforts started to rebuilding the affected state. So all developmental activities come to stop. So those are the losses to which are categorized as tertiary losses. So disasters are really having far reaching implications in terms of damages. So disasters, we have to take very serious note of that, and that's why we are providing these lessons here. So friends, I hope you have already understood some basic concepts of disaster management. I repeat, like we have discussed some definitions like disaster, like hazard, vulnerability, capacity, risk, and disaster. Besides that, we have categorized disasters into various categories. If you know, or if I will be happy to let you know that what is happening at the moment. We have learned a lot of lessons, and based on not only Government of India's efforts of the international community, focus on disaster management has undergone a paradigm shift. And when I am talking about this is that earlier focus on disaster management was restricted to providing relief immediately after disaster and doing some small time rehabilitation work. Now the current focus is we are not only providing taking care of relief and rehabilitation, but we have gone much beyond that. Like we have gone for reconstruction, where we are taking building back better approach, and we are building affected areas in such a manner that when the next cycle of disaster is coming, our built environment is remain intact. Not only that, before disaster is striking, we are taking a lot of care, like we are investing hugely in preparedness measures, like we are getting ready to face disasters. We had discussed during this discussion about evacuation. So we are developing our evacuation strategies. Similarly, we are going to have mitigation efforts. We are taking preventive measures. When I am talking about preventive measures, lot of building bylaws, building codes are there to make our built environment, our housing, our infrastructure facilities, our roads, our bridges, everything, our airports, our railway stations, our railways, everything whatever we are building as disaster safe by adopting those measures. So paradigm shift has taken place from post disaster management to pre disaster management, not only pre disaster management but planning for post disaster management at pre disaster stage itself. So this is a change has already taken place. So the current focus, as I told, we are focusing on not only one type of hazard. As I told, our states are prone to various type of hazards, and as I give an example of West Bengal, which is prone to earthquakes, cyclones, floods, landslides. So what is the approach appropriate for that state or those states which are having multi-hazard? We have to adopt multi-hazard approach. When we are building our house in hazard prone areas, so we have to take care of all possible hazards prevailing there. Simultaneously, we have to take holistic approach, holistic and comprehensive approach, where we are planning for entire gambit of disaster management. As told, prevention, mitigation, preparedness, relief, search and rescue, relief, rehabilitation, reconstruction, recovery, long-term recovery, short-term. So entire gambit of disaster management has to be taken care of at pre-disaster stage itself. So that is the game changer. When we are taking care of all these things, multi-hazard approach, comprehensive and holistic approach, so we are in a better manner to take care of our disaster events which are taking place. So it is expected that with all these efforts, it will be very, very nice for all of us, for humanity, for all countrymen, that disasters will be less severe, and ultimately we will be able to minimize the impact, minimize the human life lost in a big manner. Thank you.